Good morning, Year 8. How are you doing? Okay, so we're at the end of our poetry unit. We've done it. We've slogged through, and this is inopportune and offensive comparison. We've slogged through the trenches, and now we're at the end. Before we move on to some wonderful creative writing exercises, just doing one quick redraft today. So, just to remind you, the easiest way to do this is to just write a new answer underneath your old one in blue type so that you can see the difference between the first one and the second one. And then when you've done that, just click Make a Copy up here where it says File, or if you're on a phone, I'll show you the video for it in a second. Make a copy, click that, copy comments and suggestions so that they all come across, and then submit that with your work. Remember, you can find things in the Google Drive. If they ever go missing, just search Drive and it will show up as a website. And then just type in whatever it was, like whatever that day's work was called, and the file will always be there. Can't go missing. Okay, so there's the video if you're wondering about how to copy a document on your phone. So quickly, it's really important to use what you know about the writer's life to explain why they wrote about the battle, how they did. So we did all that research about Sassoon. We learned about how Owen felt about war, sort of convinced by Sassoon to become much more critical of war. And then by comparison, we know that Brooks wrote his poem at the beginning of the war when things were quite optimistic, when a lot of people thought that the war would be relatively easy, that it would be a triumphal exercise. So you could use that to explain, oh, well, that's probably why he wanted to paint the war as such a heroic moment for the soldiers. Same thing can apply to the other poets, but it's really helpful at the end of each paragraph you can just add in a little bit of information about the poet and say, well, this probably is why they chose to show it this way. Explain what the reader's meant to feel. This is a classic piece of advice. Some of us still aren't including it, and it will really help you get a bit more detail. Is, well, this phrase is, why do you think the poet did that? Why do you think they did that? What are they trying to make us feel? So you say, oh, well, this quote is meant to make us feel or understand this. Zoom in on the meaning of one or two words. So still, this is similar to what are we meant to feel in response. It's so much more effective if you're saying, well, this word means that, and this word makes us feel this, rather than just sort of gesturing vaguely at the quote behind you. Embed the quote some information. So Owen uses a metaphor to describe the awful sounds of the battle as is much more effective than saying, in the quote it says, and then you just leave it. It's so much more effective if you add in a little bit of information about what the quote is that you're describing, because it shows A, that you understand what is happening in the quote, and B, it sort of sets you up so much better for talking about a quote if you've said, when the something is described as, or when in the poet we see described as, you're already setting yourself up to think of like, oh, okay, so he's described gunfire sounding like this. I wonder why he wanted to make gunfire sound like that. And you're already thinking after the quote of why he's going to do it. It's much more easy than saying, in the poem it says, and then afterwards you have to say, this makes us think, It's not as detailed because I'm like, oh, what was it we were thinking about? And I'm not quite sure. Use at least two quotes in each paragraph, so much more detailed, gives you more chance to show off your knowledge. Link back to the question with a sentence that summarises the poet's message. So at the end of each paragraph, the question was, there is no glorious slaughter in war. I've actually forgotten the exact words off the top of my head. But you can use that in the final sentence of each paragraph. Okay, so having looked at the language of these quotes, I think that this person is definitely not in favour of war. So you can say, so it would seem that from his presentation of war, he is probably not in favour of the slaughter of young men. Okay, so other piece of feedback before I show you an example of one that was being done really well. Use the word because as much as possible. It's really powerful in your analysis. Look how it upgrades this really simple sentence on the right. This word makes war seem bad. Okay, I might agree with you, but it's like in maths if you just wrote the answer without putting your thinking. This word makes war seem bad because it contrasts sharply with the positive sensations of their dreams. Now that I've added in a because, I'm able to explain my thinking. Well, I've showed that the reason why that word makes war seem so bad is because it's so different to the positive fuzzy feelings that we had when we're thinking about their dreams. So try and use because or something like since or as or due to show here's the thing that we feel and this is the reason we feel it. It's so much more detailed and it's just by using one simple word because. Okay, so I'll just quickly show you an example of one that's been done really well. Rupert Brooke idealises and illustrates fighting for one's country as a patriotic duty and a heroic endeavour. He personifies England as her flowers to love, provoking nature. Well, we will change this to provoking natural imagery. He imagines and personifies England as flowers to enjoy and places to roam. Okay, so here's a description of what is happening in the quote. Also, you'll notice how a little bit of context is given about what the quote is about before it's explained. This is a really good way to embed quotations. England is romanticised. Flowers have positive connotations of joy and purity. So not only a really good semicolon here, but simple use of connotations to explain how Brooke is trying to associate England with fuzzy emotions. So in this poem, like describing England as this wonderful thing that looks after you, nurtures you almost like a mother, must be because he wants us to think of England so positively. Connotations is a great way to do that. You say, oh, this word has connotations of. We can understand that he wants to put England into a positive light. There we go. That's the purpose of the poet. Nice. Furthermore, Brooke describes in the poem, so here's our second quote for the paragraph. Brooke describes in the poem going under an English heaven. It's probably best to change that to dying under an English heaven because that's particularly what is happening here. Heaven, known universally as a glorious, honoured place, is unusually depicted as English. This is further evidence that Brooke wants to praise England to the highest standards and also showing that he is patriotic and proud. Okay, so these are all the things that stem from this one little image of someone dying under an English heaven, because they're not under an English heaven, they're in France somewhere, but he's claiming that this is still the beauty of England follows us around and protects us. Very patriotic, must love his country a huge amount. From this, he is additionally presenting war heroically as a duty that should be fulfilling, accompanied with love for England. So, in a way, we have got to link back to the question. We could probably be even more explicit and say that he probably does think that there could be something glorious about the slaughter of young men. Well done for this, Lawrence. Thank you very much for everyone seeing it. Okay, today's mystery word is vainglorious. So write the word vainglorious above your redraft, and that way I know that you've been watching these lovely videos because it's super important that we keep watching all of the materials. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.